17th of March 2024. This is a news flash, and in this news flash I'm going to talk about Eskom. The article was in my broadband, published on the 17th of March. Big win for Eskom, split into 3 companies. The National Energy Regulator of South Africa, NERSA, has consented to the transfer of Eskom's power and duties related to Section 34 power purchase agreements with independent power producers to the National Transmission Company South Africa, NTCSA. Remember that, NTCSA. It also sanctioned issuing cost recovery letter to NTCSA for Section 34 IPP projects to designate the NTSCA as the buyer in terms of the Energy Regulations Act. The regulator said Eskom's applications for consent to transfer its power and duties submitted in December 2023 was a pivotal step of the power utilities unbundling process. The project aims to make Eskom more manageable and encourage more private sector participation in electricity production. It could also allow IPPs to compete directly with Eskom's generation division. The transmission of the buyer role for Section 34 IPPs from Eskom to the NTCSA is a critical component of this process, said NERSA. The reasons for decision document will be available in due course. Eskom hit another significant milestone relating to the unbundling process in January 2024 when it announced the appointment of the Board of Directors of NTCSA. The Eskom board appointed 12 non-executive directors to the NTCSA's board. Non-executive. I'm not going to read all the directors to you. You can find it on broadband if you want to. The NTCSA secured a transmission license from NERSA in July 2023. The transmission license decision marks a significant milestone in the legal separation process of the transmission division. It also applied for trading and import-export licenses, which the regulator issued in September 2023. The granting of the requisite operating licenses to NTCSA is one of the key dependencies required to enable the operationalization of the NTCSA, said Eskom. Now, I have spoken about this previously, and I've said that when I look at all the things happening and I look at it critically, I get an idea that there's a plan on the table to break South Africa up, balkanize South Africa, and I have spoken about it many times. And I've also said that when you look at how this USSR was broken down, there were 2 things that was important in the crash of the USSR. The first thing is that all the state assets had to get into the hands of the oligarchs, and the second thing is that criminal gangs was in control of the country. Criminal gangs controlled sections of Russia. And you can go and read the history on that. Now look at what's happening here in South Africa. The South African society is already in the hands of criminal gangs. It is visible everywhere. They are everywhere. They are in basically all the service industries. Look at how they manipulate the water reticulation systems by fucking it up so that the tankers can run and deliver water. And those tankers belongs to gangs. Don't bluff yourself. It's under control of gangs. We've seen the same thing in Eskom with the coal transports. The government allowed the destruction of the rail infrastructure so the truck gangs can have a space. The government allowed the destruction of the conveyor belt systems on the power stations, from the power stations to the coal fields. to protect the trucks. It is there. They allowed the rail infrastructure and the conveyors to be destroyed. Now they are allowing the water infrastructure reticulation systems to be destroyed for the tanker trucks. Those are practical things that I'm mentioning to you. But go and look at the results of it. The trucks are wrecking the road infrastructure. And slowly but surely, the economy is destroyed more and more and more. And there is a small gang that's making a lot of money. This Eskom thing is a big, big farce. And we all know it. But it is a major cash heist. That's what's going on in Eskom. The deliberate sabotage of the production capacity at the different coal stations. Why is it done? To make space on the national grid for the IPPs. Now, if you look at the IPPs, you must understand, from the moment that the IPPs were brought to our attention and the creation of these IPPs, there was always the reality that the IPPs could not compete. They could not compete with the prices that Eskom was generating its own power. And what was the result? We have been forced by NERSA through increases in power costs. That is scary. Why are they making the power so expensive? To make it possible for the IPPs to provide power. But you have a big problem with this green thing, and it's slowly but surely falling apart all across the globe. It's falling apart. Look what happened to Germany. Germany was the leading economic engine of Europe. And by going green, what happened to Germany? They are energy starved today. They're actually breaking down wind farms to get to the coal fields under the wind farms. That's the reality. There is not a viable replacement for coal as a source of energy. There is not. The green energy, the renewable energy, is notoriously unreliable. And then the people say, yeah, but you can sort that unreliability out by batteries. Do you understand? To put batteries up, to maintain the South African grid, is going to cost more than what it will cost to build 3 or 4 or 5 nuclear power stations. But we are being fed bullshit every day, by this XXX puppets that are desperate to get the grid, specifically the grid, into the hands of the oligarchs. Why is the grid so important? For the simple reason that with one switch, they can switch the whole region off. With selective switches, they can switch selective portions of the region off. That gives them the ultimate control over those regions. Open your eyes. This is what they're doing, right in front of you. And then there's a lot of these liberals, snowflake fuckers, that cheers Eskom is privatized. Don't they understand that they are giving their existence into the hands of XXX? And I have said, the day that Eskom goes, then the balkanization will be shortly after that. And here it is. I have spoken about it in my Skidmarks a few weeks ago. I saw that massive loan that the government took from the World Bank, and they gave the grid as security. Now you have to ask yourself, what other state assets has not been offered as securities already? And that means that XXX has those things. Because all they have to do is they demand payback on the loans, and the government can't pay back. We know they can't pay it back, and then they take the assets that they had as security. That's what they want. That's what they're after. So, South Africans better open their eyes and realize that we are going to be faced with a horrific fuck-up in the near future. And Eskom is the key to destroy South Africa. to get South Africa fully under control of XXX. Because when the World Bank has taken things as security, the World Bank is XXX. The IMF is XXX. So think about that. This is much more significant than you may think when you look at it. Because why? Because you are being blinded by the nightmare of load shedding. And you are now in a position that you will accept anything as long as the load shedding can go. To give you a practical example of solar, renewable, how reliable it is. Yesterday, my own house produced a massive amount of kilowatt hours, almost twice as much as I needed. Today, it's cloudy and my solar can't cope. So, that is what happens on a national basis. So don't fool yourself and bluff yourself that renewables is the answer. Renewables is actually the horror story. Think about this and remember what I've been telling you for a long time. XXX wants South Africa balkanized. I'm not going to talk here about the reasons for it, but that is what they want. The main reason is because the civil service has been fucked beyond repair and it will take 30 to 40 years to fix it, provided they have the skills, which they don't have. And that will mean that for 40 years you have to sit in a drum with the lid closed and wait until the country is functioning again. It's not going to happen. So the collapse of the infrastructure is the first logical reason why the country must break into pieces. Please give me a like and subscribe and share the thing. Thank you for your support.